Open up the door, it's Dave! Who?
Twice over the last couple of weeks, Tesla pushed software updates to my car. And what I noticed was these are full self-driving updates, which nominally doesn't impact me, except that it actually does. They're offering 30 days of free full self-driving to test it out and see what you think. Take it for a test drive, if you will. And along the way, they get to collect some more data from people actually driving who may not otherwise want to have it. And then maybe some people want to take advantage of it and will pay for it later anyway. But the idea is to really try to get it out there and try to market it a little more and show it off a little more. So there's a couple of updates that are there. I want to share with you what they look like. I think it's kind of cool. I went ahead and just took a look and I was like, ooh, there's some interesting things here. The first is that you see that the screen actually looks different. When you're looking at the display, you see more of what the world around you looks like rather than just the lane you're in and the traffic immediately around you. You get a bird's eye view of the lanes, of the traffic, of the entirety of the road, all the things that the full self-driving sees. Kind of interesting. And then I want to play around with full self-driving a little bit and kind of see how it goes. I've never tried it before. I want to see what it does. So let's take a look and see what we've got. Now, you may recall previously that when I showed you a parking lot, it was kind of a weird mix of cars and spaces and whatever. It showed you everything, but it wasn't quite complete. It looks like they've enhanced that software a little bit, because now when I'm driving in, I see the full view of the parking lot. I can see the cars around me. They appear to be in the right places. And each one of the parking spaces that's available shows up as a sort of a gray block. So I know which ones are available. Now, you may notice too that there's a P showing up on each one of these spaces. And I wasn't sure what that was for at first. And then after I played with it a little more, I realized that it was showing me that those are spaces available for me to be able to back into using the park assist. I can actually use that function and have the car park itself into those spaces. It can only back up into them because of the way the cameras work, but it's still pretty helpful in that sense. Being kind of a late adopter to this, I really couldn't figure out how to use it at first. Then it occurred to me that all I had to do was tap on the P, and it would actually bring up a menu that says, do you want to park here? And you click OK, and it actually brings you into the space and backs you right into it. It's really pretty unnerving in a way, a little confusing for a moment while it's backing up. But you know what? It's really great. And this is a feature by itself that I would love to have in the car. Just to be able to park efficiently all the time would be extremely helpful. It is kind of weird to take your hands off the wheel and let the car park, but this is really kind of nice. This is actually the kind of thing I'd like to have because it does make parking that much easier. All right, since I have full self-driving, the beta available to me for that 30-day window, I'm going to give it a try. I'm out and I'm going to use it to get me home. And let's see how it goes. This is the first time I'm ever going to try this driving a car. So I'm kind of curious what I think about it as I go. It seems like kind of a foreign thing to me, but we'll see. It might be really cool. I don't know. We're going to try it and find out. First of all, let's figure out how we turn it on and then we'll go from there. All right, looks like it's turned on already. It's already set that way. Just a single pull to activate it, and then everything else should be there. Whoops, I want to go back to lane change chimes. That way it stays that way so I can hear the lane change notification. All right, I'm going to try it from here to see if I can get home. So let's try it. Let's give it a shot. So it's supposed to be a single pull on the candle that turns it on, and it should drive me home. This is weird. It's already weird. Feels weird. Let's see what it does. I'm ready to take over at any moment. This just feels strange to be doing this. Let's see if it stops at the stop sign. There's a stop sign ahead I can see up there. You can see it up there. And am I slowing up? Oh, turn the turn signal on, and it is stopping the car. Oh, that's freaky. That is really, really, really freaky. Okay, it stopped the car on its own there. Okay, we're going. It's looking again. It's checking. And it's turning the wheel. I'm not doing it. It's doing it. Oh, that's just weird, man. That's just freaky. Yes, I'm paying attention to the road. I just pulled my hand off for a second. Jeez, man. That was just freaky. Oh, this is weird. This is really, really weird. I don't know about this, man. This full self-driving stuff that it does, I just don't know. Okay, and it's picking up to 25 because the speed limit is 25. I can see that up ahead. Going up over the hill here. There's a traffic light ahead. I know that. Been through this intersection enough times to know there's a traffic light up there. You can see it up there. Hasn't shown up on the camera yet. The camera hasn't detected it yet, so there it goes. Now I think it sees it. And I'm slowing down. Yes, and it's braking. Okay. For a moment I wasn't sure it was going to. Now I know it is. Okay. It's the uncertainty, right? Because I'm always in control of the car, or someone I know or trust or whatever, or someone who has a driver's license is in control of the car. So to have the computer in control of the car just feels weird. There's a bunch of cars turning. There it goes. Oh wow. It changed and it went. Okay. That was pretty crazy. I'm home now, and it was about a 15-minute drive to get home from where I was. And the the autopilot, the full self-driving, it was weird, cool, and kind of off-putting a little bit. A couple of times it felt like it wasn't going to stop in the right place, like especially when I was at the gate, both at the place I was leaving and when I got home. When I got to the gate, it actually didn't slow up enough. And we have one of these things it's called a trap gate, where you go through one gate and then you go to a second gate and the first gate closes to prevent multiple people from coming through. So went up to the first gate and the thing didn't know how to react exactly, or at least it felt to me that it didn't. So I wound up taking control, and then I tried to put it back in gear and it wouldn't go back in. It wouldn't go back to the full self-driving until after I went through the gate. And I think that may just be a quirk of the way it works with the gate, or maybe I just wasn't patient enough. I'm not sure. But at the first gate, when I was leaving the other place, it slowed down, but it didn't feel like it was quite right. The turns are a little tight for my taste. I like to make a little bit more of a soft turn, but these are making very hard turns, and it accelerates more than I do. I like to accelerate at a kind of a soft acceleration, but this was just like gunning it, which I guess is okay. It was fine. You know, it's like being in someone else's car in a way. But it was just weird and totally freaky when it would change lanes and when it would slow up at like a traffic light. Kind of freaks you out a little bit. I imagine I'd get used to it. It's one of those questions, what if I started with that and never learned how to drive and was just using that? How would I feel about it? I'd probably feel weird about having to drive myself in that case. But having been driving for over 40 years, it's weird to have someone else take control of the wheel, or a computer take control of the wheel like that. But it is really cool, and I do want to try it some more, maybe try it on the highway and see how it goes, because it is really, really clever and neat and kind of fun in a way. The next thing to try is how the full self-driving works on the highway. I'm headed up to Orlando to go to the theme parks today, so let's try it out as I go and see what happens. All right, I had to turn it off for a moment. There we go. Now it's back on. Okay, yes, I'm touching the wheel. What do you want from me there, buddy? And it changed lanes, and it's changing lanes again. And this should be an okay lane to be in here, I think. And then decide if that's the right lane. So as I'm driving along, everything seems to be good. Every once in a while, the car, because of road construction and whatever, the car will kind of take itself out of self-driving just because the lanes are kind of weird. It's a very strange thing. Now, something I could do, I could actually use the turn signal to tell the car I want to change lanes, and it'll do it for me. So since it's not doing automatically, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on like this. And the car reacts to me having the turn signal on, and actually moves the car over without me having to do anything. It's just kind of weird that way. And then it just finishes the lane change. Coming up on these trucks here, and the car decided that it was time to change lanes. You saw it turn red for a second because there was a car next to me, but it went ahead and moved me over, so I'm now in this lane and driving. And I didn't have to do anything, and it's crazy to me. It's just, it feels so weird when it does that. I think it's going to move me back now too, because there's a car behind me. Yep, it says it is. There it goes, it's moving me. Here we go. There we go, you saw it pop on. It moved over. Because the cameras are always looking to see if it's clear, it takes a second for it to actually decide to move. Driving this way with full self-driving is actually kind of cool in a way. It's a little crazy when you think about it, because I'm like not in control of the car for the most part. And it's kind of neat. So far, my take on it is it's really nice. It's kind of fun to drive this way. But in reality, I don't think it's worth the extra $10,000 that you'd spend to use it. it's fun to play with, no question. But I don't think it's quite where I want it to be, and I'm a little uncomfortable with it. You know, I'm an older guy. I like to be in control of the car, but it's kind of an interesting thing, and I do enjoy playing with it. It's kind of fun to play around with. I did have one situation. I was driving in traffic, and there was a car in front of me that was going slower. There was a truck in the middle lane that was in front of me that was going faster, and then there was a truck hauling like trees or something to the right, in the right lane. So as I'm going along, see, we're moving lane. We changed lanes again here. So as I'm going along, I have these three cars, and so the car decides it's going to change lanes to the middle lane, which is fine because everything's good. The problem was the truck in the farthest right lane that had these trees off the back of it. So it's a big truck that's fully loaded. Maybe the driver couldn't see as well or whatever. We're going along, and all of a sudden he goes, I'm going to pull out too, and I'm going to change lanes into that same lane at the same time that I'm changing into the lane. So for a moment, it was sheer panic. Because personally, if I were driving, I wouldn't have changed into that lane. I would have just slowed down and then moved over to the lane a little later. But the car decided it was time to move over into that lane, and so did that truck. And I had no control over that moment. So I had a little fear for a moment as that was happening. And then once I disengaged the autopilot and I slowed down and everything was fine, no harm done. But it was just a weird moment where I was like, wow, that's weird, because the car is making a decision that's maybe not the best decision. It's not exactly the most efficient decision. But I understand why it made the decision. It was just kind of a weird thing that it did at that moment. Anyway, just something I observed. Like I said, I like it. It's fun. Don't know that I want to pay for it, but it is really, really kind of a fun time to drive it like this. After driving a little more, I've come to discover that there's some things that I really don't like about the full self-driving. It has to do with the way it navigates lanes and moves things around. So I'm on Florida's Turnpike, and there are several rest stops along the way. And every time we came up to a rest stop, it moved me to the left lane, closest to the rest stop. Didn't matter where I was or what traffic looked like. It was really kind of strange. I don't know why it did that. And every once in a while, as I'm driving along, ever so slightly, I touch the wheel because it reminds you to hold on to the wheel. You can't let go. And it would disengage the autopilot for some reason. It would just stop running, and the car starts to slow down immediately. You have to take control. There were a couple of other times where I was coming along, and there was like traffic entering the highway, and I'm in the right lane, and traffic is coming up in front of me, and I can see clearly that I need to change lanes. There's no question about it. The car doesn't sense that. The car didn't start to change lanes, so I went in and turned on the turn signal. But now there's a car close enough to me where my car doesn't want to change lanes, and I have to disengage the driving just to be able to change lanes to make it safe for the cars entering the highway. It was just kind of awkward and weird. It wasn't anything specific or bad. It was just kind of one of those awkward moments where you're like, well, it's not quite ready for this sort of driving with this traffic around like this. And so it just keeps adjusting. Then a couple of other times I wanted to change lanes. And at one point I used the turn signal to tell it to start changing lanes. It started to change, then suddenly it just turned off the turn signal, disengaged the self-driving, and just sat me sort of halfway between the lanes. Like, what is it doing? Why is it doing that? That makes no sense. So I had to actually just take over and drive for a minute and then re-engaged it. It's just very strange, some of the quirky little things it does. There's nothing wrong with it. It drives great for the most part, but there's just those moments. I don't know. Oh, and there was one kind of scary thing that happened. While I was going along, I think there was a speed limit sign that said 35 for construction that was kind of turned a little bit, so I didn't actually catch it as something that I would have responded to. But the car did, and slowed the car down to 35 miles an hour while I was on the highway, and there was no active construction going on. It was a scary moment when it first started to decelerate, but I just took over the car and then just started driving it myself at that point because I didn't want to have an accident or something just because the car decided to slow down. You may ask yourself, hey, what about the auto summon feature? That's the one where you can park your car, tap the app, have the car unpark itself, and come and meet you somewhere. Isn't that supposed to be part of full self-driving? And the answer is yes, but with the caveat, only if you have sensors on your car. If you have cameras, that feature is completely disabled and not available, which is kind of a strange thing when you think about it, that Tesla didn't think this through and put it in place when you're using cameras. Now, to be fair, that functionality is a little bit wonky from what I understand, and it's a little gimmicky, and it kind of was hit or miss, didn't really work so well. A couple of times I heard about cars stopping themselves and not making it all the way to the entrance or whatever. But the principle is, it's weird how they talk about this gimmicky thing that they got, but it's not available to us if we have a car that doesn't have the right kind of equipment. That is, the newer cars. Kind of strange.
What's your point, David?